Hello, everybody. Welcome back to another episode of The Life Has Spoken. I am your host, Ed Castillo, former Corey Org alumni from season 7, season 9, and season 10. We're back with another interview. Before we start, I would like to say that I'm very happy for our next guest. Very intrigued to ask her so many questions. Before we start, I would just want to thank our sponsors because we do have 3 sponsors tonight. Our first sponsor comes from I'm actually coming live from you to you from the Panina Productions. So shout out to them. And our first sponsor is actually Big Rat Productions. That's one of our sponsors. Our second sponsor is Jack Frost Vodka Seltzer. So if you're ever thirsty, make sure you get your Jack Frost Vodka Seltzer. And our last sponsor comes from like Tuggy Fresh Wraps. So shout out to them 3 for giving us the okay and sponsoring us. JK, that was just fun for fun. They're not really your sponsors. They know who they are. But I just wanted to like lighten the mood. And third, I want to thank my executive producer, Gabriel Camilleri. Without him, this thing will not like go 100% because he provides me with the stats for every single person that I interview, and he's the guy behind the scenes. So thank you so much, Gabe. Love you, buddy. And without further ado, let's start with this. Tonight, we have a special guest. She has played more than once. She made her debut on season 1. She is an OG, and she is a queen outside the orgs, and she's the nicest person I know. She has a kind heart, and she always knows what to say to people when they're feeling down and uplifts them. So please welcome my special guest, McKenna. Hi, McKenna. How are you?
How are you? I'm good. Thank you for having me, Ed.
Thank you for being here. Thank you so much. So before we go live, I just wanted, we're actually live, but before we start the interview, I wanted to say thank you so much for being here. I know that you're a busy woman, just like everybody right now. Things are picking up because of the pandemic. Things start to go back to how it was. So I really appreciate you being here and, sharing your time with us and talking about your org career and other orgs. And I will touch base on something that happened recently. You actually became part of a host for an org. And we'll talk about how that went because I know that you just finished season 11 of Survivor Fan Juries. But before we get to that, we'll talk about you and how everything started with Corey's org. So you're actually from Minnesota, but
I am.
But in your org, in your Facebook page, it says Philadelphia. But you were just telling me something that you actually now live where?
In Virginia.
Virginia. So does it count as Philadelphia when you play in Corey's org, or is it Minnesota?
Well, I guess aside from Amazing Race, I haven't played Corey's org since I moved here. It's been a hectic month. I moved here the first week of August, started a new job the next week. So I'd say it still counts as Pennsylvania for now. And I think this is a temporary thing. I think that I'll only be here for a couple of years and then move back to PA. So I would say like I'm from Pennsylvania. If we're counting in the stats which state I am credited to.
And would you rather for it to be counted as Philadelphia, or would you be like Minnesota since you are originally from there?
I'd say Philadelphia, especially considering the crew that we have from my little area. I think we're all proud.
Yeah, there's a lot of Philadelphians from there, the strong group, just to name a few. So how did you find about Survivor? Were you always a fan from like since the beginning when you were a little kid, or was it more like the pandemic happened and then you just like, okay, I love the show, let me just watch every season?
Oh, I have watched every show since season 2. When we moved to Pennsylvania, my dad came to PA before when I was 4 years old and watched season 1 where he was living. And then when the rest of my family moved out, we all came out and he was like, you've got to see the show. And I was 4 years old and I started with Australian Outback and I've never missed a season since. And my mom used to get mad at me because instead of going to socialize with my friends, I would go on YouTube and rewatch old seasons of Survivor back when it was like, you would just type into YouTube like season 7, episode 2, part 1 of 4, like stuff like that. And I would just constantly watch it, and I just liked memorizing everything about the show.
So you would say that you're actually a super fan, or do you consider yourself like, because I know in Corey's Org there's a lot of trivia, and I've actually never played with you, but I think, correct me if I'm wrong, but I think you definitely know your stuff. Like not like an Austin or like maybe like a Gabe, but you definitely know like when someone names this person like a JT reference, you're like, oh, that's JT, you know?
It's JT, of course. Yeah, I'd say like before orgs, like I was the nutty Survivor person. Compared to some of these people, I'm probably nothing. But yeah, I would say I like know basics. Like if you mention anyone, I will know who it is. Even if I don't remember like a small random fact about them, like I know every single person. If any Survivor ever walked past me on the street, I would stop them and ask for a picture and maybe a hug.
So the pandemic happened and a lot of people were on lockdown. How did you, were you following any of the org community like pages, or how did you find about Corey's org? Because I know season 1 was like nothing like most of the org pages right now that they have like videos and stuff. It was more like, I think it was just like Messenger or something like that. How did that happen?
Yeah, so Corey just like went live on Facebook in the Survivor fan jury Facebook page that is like 30,000 people. And my mom wouldn't let me go anywhere, and I like to be social, so I was like really upset about that. And so I just like saw this thing on the internet, and he was asking trivia questions, and I was like, ooh, my favorite show, I'll participate. And then I think that day ended, and he was like, I'm gonna do it again. And I was like, well, I've got nothing planned the next few months, so might as well come back. And then I think he narrowed it down to the top like 15 or something, and then was like, surprise, you're all in a Survivor simulation. And I was like, oh, wait, this is not what I signed up for. Like, to be honest, I was not a fan at first. I like didn't even know the orgs were a thing. Like, I didn't know the org community existed or any of that. And so I kind of got into that, and then people started messaging me, and my sister was in season 1 too, and she was like, are we supposed to play? And I was like, I don't know. Like, I don't know. Like, we'll just chill and like see what happens. And it was basically, he would just go live, I think, on Facebook every once in a while, and we would all comment, and that's how we like did stuff. That's how we did like challenges, and there were like Messenger for alliances, kind of. I think I missed one of the days, to be honest. I was actually on vacation during it, and I remember, I mean, I didn't last super long in season 1, but I remember just being like, oh, like, I can't be there tonight. And it was just like, okay. And then I just like didn't, like, I don't really count that as like a game that I played usually, because I sort of wasn't mentally there. But then I was like, oh, you know, this is actually like an okay concept. But I never pictured I would do it again. And then I did. So, but I'm happy I did.
You did 3 seasons. So after doing season 1, you came back for 3 seasons total. You mentioned your sister. Was she a big fan as well, or how did that happen? Were you ever, and this ties to a question that I have, you played with your sister. Was there any type of rivalry between sisters? Would you have turned on her had you lasted longer? Because I do know you actually placed 9th, and if I'm not mistaken, she placed 6th.
Yeah.
So talk about that and how that happened, you playing with your sister.
Yeah, well, I answered all her trivia questions, so I'm how she got in. But I don't know that I would call it a rivalry. I think we were kind of like, okay, whoever is going to do better can just like do better. And if the other one is a sacrifice, the other one is a sacrifice. But I don't think it like season 1, like a lot of the orgs like have meant a lot to me. And it was sort of still so foreign to me that it didn't have as much like, I didn't have the heart in it as much, I guess. And so it was kind of like, oh, like if she can play, she can play. Like I'm voted out. That's cool. I wouldn't have like planned her blindside, I guess. But if someone had been like, hey, we're going to vote out your sister, but we want to take you to the end, I would have been like, oh, okay. And then been like, hey, Samantha, like, I think they're going to vote you out tonight. Are you okay with that? And she would have been like, yeah, if you can win, like, try, go ahead. Like, that was just kind of, it wasn't like a top priority, but we weren't like targeting each other. It was just weird.
Do you think that if you had survived and your sister is in the final four as well. Both of you are in the final four. Do you think one of you guys wins? Looking back,
No.
or no?
No.
Really?
I mean, don't get me wrong, if I somehow made it to the end of that, like, I'm competitive and I love Survivor.
Mm-hmm.
So I would have tried to make a case for sure. But at the same time, like, I wouldn't really feel like I deserved it. And I'm very like, I want the most deserving person to win. So, like, I don't know. I don't see a world where either of us win unless it's like, I don't know, like everyone was really bitter against someone else that made it far that probably played better than us because we were not, like, that was not our prime of like playing, I guess, strategically or anything. I'd be shocked if there was a world where I win.
Well, that was season one, and
Yeah.
you've played more than once. And nowadays, just the game has evolved, as has the org. Because season one, there was only like Messenger.
Mhm.
It wasn't until season four that they actually created the org page, and then you could see stuff. And now we literally, you have to do challenges, and you have to go to the org page and see what's been posted.
Mhm.
Do you think that it was a bit of a disadvantage for season one that there wasn't a lot of stuff like the org page, or do you think it was just like trial and error? Let's just have fun and see where this goes.
Um, I think it was a unique experience. I don't know if I'd say it was a disadvantage. I'd say it was a good intro.
Mm-hmm.
Like, if Corey's Org season 1 had been intense as like season 6, I probably would have just quit. Like, like going back to the mindset of season 1 before I had ever played orgs, like if it had been like full throttle, all of that, and I think a lot of the people in season 1, like obviously Austin had played orgs, but I think a lot of us, like, we weren't warned like, hey, you're trying out for a Survivor game. We just thought we were doing trivia. And so
Mm-hmm.
I think if it had been too intense, I know I, probably Samantha and a couple other people would have been like, oh, just give someone else my spot, like this isn't what I was like looking for. So although it wasn't like the most exciting season, I think it was a good intro to kind of be like, oh, like you can do something like this online, if that makes
Mm-hmm.
sense. And then like Austin would still message me a little bit after, and we kind of kept up, which is then will be how I got into season 3. um and I was like, oh, like people like stay in touch, like that's kind of cool, like good for people on the internet.
So season one happened, and like you said, there wasn't like much. It wasn't as big as let's say
Mm-hmm.
season six, but you still had to play the game. Was there anything that you took away from season one that made you like, you know what, I am playing a game in a way, so why not try to win? Or was there any friendships or anything that impressed you from season one that you still, looking back, you're kind of like nostalgic since that your first org?
Oh yeah, yeah,
Okay.
I didn't know they existed before that. I don't know if this counts because it's not as much game related, but like just the idea of like, wow, there are these people on the internet, or like there are people out there like me who
Mhm.
like are slightly weirdly obsessed with the show, um, and will be happy to talk to me about it for days and days and days and never get sick of talking about it and running through scenarios and talking about our favorite players and our favorite moves. Whereas like if I try to talk to people like at home with my family, like Samantha likes Survivor, my parents like Survivor, but if I talk about it too much, they're like, okay, like quiet down, like we're done, like we don't want to talk about this anymore. And I got some of my friends into it, but like they weren't on my level. And now like to see that there's people who are beyond me that like wake
Does
up
that
thinking about it and go to bed thinking about it even more so, it was just a cool experience to see that there's people like that.
so you don't come back for season two, and but they still Corey does season two.
I
You
didn't
don't
even
come
know
back.
about it.
Really, you didn't know about? Because
I
that was
didn't
one
know
of my
season 2 was
questions.
happening.
I was like, why didn't she come back season two? But
No,
I
I had
guess you
no
didn't know
idea.
about it. Oh, okay. Would you have come back though?
um Not unless it was under the condition like season 3 was, where someone reached out to me and was like, hey, will you please play this.
Hmm. So moving on to season three, you end up playing.
Mm-hmm.
Um, was one of the reasons, was it because Austin was playing as well, or also talk about how, because you met Austin season one, and he has, and I quote, he is McKenna's bestie. Um, and you guys, the friendship came out of that, if
Yeah.
anything, amongst other stuff. But did that influence you to play season 3? Obviously, Austin had to, you know, be evacuated. He couldn't play, but
Mhm.
you ended up playing anyways.
Yeah, so it actually started my sister was going to play again. We didn't want to
Mhm,
play again because we knew we were like the sisters from
mhm.
season 1. And so Austin had reached out to, I think, both of us. Austin, if you're watching, correct me if I'm wrong. Um, I think he reached out to both of us about playing, and we didn't both want to play again. I don't even know if there were 2 spots. I feel like there might have only been one. Um, and so we kind of talked about it, and Samantha, actually, who has never come back, said, like, can I do it? Because she was going through a breakup at the time, and it was COVID, and so she was just kind of locked up in our house, like kind of just thinking about that. And she was like, I want something to distract me. Like, can I be the one to do it? And I was like, yeah, like that's a good idea. Do that. Like, I'm probably busy anyway, like because I had gone back to school at Penn State at that point, um, just living there, even though we couldn't be in person. But so she was going to do it, and then it was like a day and a half in, and she texted me and she's like, McKenna, these people message me too much. I can't do it. Like, I'm leaving. And I was like, Samantha, like, you told them you would. Like, I feel bad. And she was like, why don't you just do it? And I was like, I don't know. Like, it sounds like a commitment. And she was like, will you just take my spot? And then Austin reached out to me and was like, will you please take Samantha's spot? Like, we need someone from season 1 to like balance out the favorites tribe. And I was like, I don't really feel like I'm a favorite, but like, all right. And so, yeah, that's how I ended up doing it. And then Austin quit like 2 days later. And it's okay. It still ended up okay. Even though I was kind of like, oh, well, crap. But
We'll talk about season 3 because no longer you have the, I guess, that relationship with Austin that's would have been playing with you as a friend,
mm-hmm.
and also you don't have that target, I guess, playing with your sister since it's just you, and
Yeah.
you end up making it really far. Tell me, did once you got there, did you decide to like let me just play to win or let's see how far I get? Because I feel like season 1 it might have not been like the best game for you because you got ninth and it was still so new. But I feel like
Mm-hmm.
season 3 you really got to like get your foot in there and just like really play it this time.
Yeah. Um, I'd say season 3 for me was really just like testing the waters. Like, I hadn't really, I don't want to say like tried, but like season 1, like I said, it didn't mean a ton to me. But then in season 3, I was like, okay, I agreed to do this. Like, clearly, this is like a thing now since they apparently did season 2 and now they're on season 3. And I was sort of the mindset that I just have nothing to lose. Like, if I do well, then cool, I can say I was successful. And if I don't, I'm probably never going to talk to these people again. So, like, who cares? Like, I'll just be done and I'll leave and that'll be it. And I'll laugh about that Survivor Gate that I played once. Um, and so I also sort of felt like a fan within the favorites tribe because I didn't realize how connected they all were. And I was told that there was like season 2 people versus the season 1 people. And then there was like the Threats Alliance, which was like 2 people from season 1, 2 people from season 2, and Nick and Maggie, who both played both. And it was like up to them which season was going to dominate. And so I just kind of wanted to take the approach of like, let me just be someone that if people want to pick up, if they want to work with, um, like let them use me. Like, I don't think I'm a threat to their game. They would hopefully like me target other people on the tribe. Plus, it helped that we won like a ton of the first few challenges, um, and let them just talk to me and hopefully like me enough that they want to keep me around. And I ended up making pretty decent alliances, I guess. I mean, for season 3, and I think 5 of us favorites made it to merge. 5, maybe 6. I think it's 5. I think it was 5 on 5, but maybe not. I don't remember. And yeah, that was kind of just my approach, just to like feel it out and sort of like sail and like see where it went and see how much I could get people to want to work with me, how much information I could get from people, and see how I could figure out how to do this. So yeah.
So something happened throughout your org career that it's been mentioned. You ate blueberries with a spoon. What is
Oh
that
my
about?
god. Yeah, I think I was on Zoom. Oh, it was during the Jeopardy when Corey did like a bunch of Jeopardy with people. Um, and I was like, I'm gonna go get a snack, and they were like, okay. And so I took out blueberries and I was eating them with the spoon, and no one has let me live it down that apparently that's not normal, even though everyone that I know eats blueberries with a spoon. And yeah, I don't know why that was a big deal, but apparently it was.
Another thing that happened throughout your org career is that apparently you shared this distinction of being one of the people that their internet went out during a challenge or something like that, along with Keanu.
Oh yeah, I think that was what, season 6? I think that was season 6. I think it went out during Tribal. It might have gone out a different time that I'm forgetting. It's happened in other orgs too that my internet has failed. But I think it was season 6. He was like reading the votes, and I saw like one vote for me. I didn't end up going home that Tribal, but I saw one vote for me, and then my computer just like died. And Austin texted me and he was like, oh my God. And I was like, did I just get voted out? Like, I can't even see it. And he was like, no, you're good. You're still in, but you got to vote. And I was like, yeah, I know. I was worried. And so, yeah, I don't think it happened during season 3, although I wouldn't be surprised.
You actually stepped down for during an endurance challenge at Final 8 for a 50-50 coin and a challenge advantage. Talk about that.
Yeah. So we were in the endurance competition, and I think the final 3 were myself, Nick, and Bo. And then we were trying to vote out Bo that night, who ended up having a super idol. But we were pretty certain that the fan side were going to be targeting Nick. And I was still with the favorites at that point in time. And I knew that he needed the immunity more than I did. And the competitive part in me wanted to just keep going because I don't know if I would have won. A part of me felt like I could have because I like that kind of stuff, but who knows how it would have played out. So I didn't enjoy stepping down, but I did because I felt like I was not the target. If Nick had immunity, I didn't think that I was the next one in line to get votes. And so, yeah.
That was in the endurance challenge, and you stood up on a leg for over an hour?
Yeah, I think it was like an hour and 27 minutes or something.
Wow, that's impressive. You're actually, yeah, that's impressive. I've only lasted probably I think it was 20 minutes on season 7, which was still kind of good considering I knew I was like, I'm probably not going to last long, but let me just give it my best shot. After season 3, you played on season 6, but before we move on to season 6, was there any time that you considered working with the fans since you were a favorite, you were casted as a favorite? Did you consider turning on the favorites and joining the fans?
Well, I technically kind of did because I ended up flipping to vote out Nick, which, side note, I was told that my 50-50 was good at the tribal council after that. So that was a big part of the flip. And then after the tribal council, I was told, oh, it's not good anymore. And I was like, what? So I was a little peeved on that.
Were you voted out after that?
I was voted out after that, yes.
No.
I know. It's okay, though. Things happen. Basically, I did not think that the way that the favorites were when they were left, Maggie ended up completely flipping to work with the fans. And then it was myself, Jesse, Nick, and Lisa. And I love Nick Whitney, but at the time, I knew that I was not in his final 3. I knew his final 3 was him, Lisa, and Jesse, and that was because he was going to win. And he's told me afterwards, I think, that he was never going to take me to the end. And so, to me, I wasn't happy with just 4th. And so at the time of the merge, I did not flip on the favorites to work with the fans, but that didn't mean it was never an option. I felt like there are times to flip, and oftentimes the merge is too early. And so I tried to have semi-good relationships with some of the fans as sort of a like it is not in my best interest to work with you guys right now, but I wanted to cultivate relationships to hopefully work with them later. Maybe with Bo or with Alan or whomever. And so that's why I then wanted to work with them on the vote where we got Nick out. And then I would have continued with that later. I would have worked with, ideally, Alan the most long term. in that season, but I felt like to flip on the favorites at the merge, I just go to the bottom of the fans pecking order, if that makes sense. And so it was too early. Like, I think that if in a world where I get to the end and potentially could win that season, I don't think that was where that would happen. I think I have to be someone who kind of just glides through the merge for a little bit with like a big finish or something, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm. The final three end up being Alan, Lisa, and Bo. Who did you vote for at the
I
end?
voted for Bo.
Do you want to explain why? Were you impressed by his game or?
Yeah. So I voted for Bo because it wasn't just because all of his idols. I know that like idols can be a little bit controversial, but one thing I really respected about Bo and the way that he played the game was I thought that he was strategically social, if that makes sense. Like part of the reason, like what I just said about how I would be willing to flip on the fans later, but I didn't feel like it was the right time at the merge, was because I thought that he did a really good job of making me feel like he would work with me later, which I mean, to be fair, it would have been him otherwise, but he did end up voting out Nick with me at that vote. And I felt like he was meaningful about that. And like, Jesse talked to me the most, but Lisa and Nick were technically in an alliance with me. And like, Bo talked to me more. Like, he was a lot more intentional. To me, he had better social game. And so that's why I ended up voting for him in the end, because I felt like one thing that I like when people do is they always keep themselves as an option for someone to work with, so that you're like, ooh, even if we have to vote against this person, let's not vote out this person. Now, granted, we did try to vote out Bo a lot because of all of his idols, but I felt like the way that he handled it in season 3 was really good about like, yeah, I'm a threat, but like, would you consider working with me down the road? And it worked. And I did want to work with him down the road. And he kept me in that mindset. And I respected the way that he did that.
Okay. You don't come back in season 4 happened, season 5 happened, and then you come back for All Stars. Were you invited? Did you have any reservations coming back? Did anybody approach you? Was there any pregame? And going back into it, what were your expectations for season 6?
Season 6 was like the opposite of season 3 for me. Because season 3, I felt like I was going in to a tribe with a bunch of people knowing each other and me not knowing anyone as soon as Austin quit. Whereas season 6, I felt like I had to like manage how many relationships I had. Like, there was a lot of pre-gaming, and I actually don't really like pre-gaming. I didn't want to pregame at all. I think for like a day and a half, I was like, no pre-gaming for me. Like, that, I don't like how people do that. And then I started getting messages from people and getting notified that I was potential first boot. And I was like, oh crap, like I have to pregame, because, you know, no one wants to be the first person voted out. But yeah, season 6 I was excited about because I wanted to play with other friends. And I remember we originally thought All Stars was going to be season 5. And so that was like such a long process. I think it was during season 4 that we started talking about All Stars and that different alliances started forming. And I don't remember all of it, but it was like, there's this person's side versus this person's side. And then people would ask me like, which side are you going to go on? And I'd be like, I don't know, like who's on each side? And so we ended up creating a lot of pregame alliances and a lot of stuff like that going in. I think I saw in your last week interview, LNC was mentioned, which we all created. And then people told me that I was like an automatic duo with Austin, Vamp, and Garrett, because I had just like recruited Garrett for season 5. And so people told me that I was being paired with them. And then people told me there were rumors of a me, Austin, Vamp, and Christina alliance. And then we had LNC. And then I think at one point there was like a small girls chat. And it was just like every single person that you thought was playing, you needed to reach out to beforehand to like show that you'd be open to working with them, just in case you end up on the same tribe. So going in, I was like half worried about being the first boot, half excited to play with friends, half just like excited for the new experience of like, I was definitely more revved up and ready to play. Like, I think season 3, I went in with like, however it goes, and we'll see how that is. And then season 6, I was like really excited.
So would you say that at this point you were more invested in the org?
Oh
Since
yeah. Yeah, once people started like hanging out, and I was very bored during COVID. I was like, yeah, like I'll play Secret Hitler till 3 a.m. That's like amazing. Like, why would I not do this? What else am I gonna do? And so we all talked, hung out, stayed friends, and I was like, ooh, like now let's play Survivor together.
how tough was it going back to an all-star season with you guys having like bonded throughout the months and knowing that you have to vote out each other, and like you said, playing Secret Hitler to maybe like 2 in the morning, and just you do play those games, but you end up bonding with people, and then you have to kind of like make the tough decision to like, I love them as a person, but I have to vote them out. Was that something that you had to struggle with
Oh yeah.
going into season 6, and how did you handle that?
I think that's something that I wasn't totally prepared for. Like, I was just thinking about we'll get to play with our friends. Like, ooh, as long as I have these good relationships, I'll like play a good game. And I wasn't as much thinking about that, but I think it hit me when the tribes were revealed, like even early enough, even because on Fuchao, I knew that, like, to be honest, I saw the tribes revealed and I was like, oh, I'm good. Like, I'm fine. Like, I'm not going to be the first boot. Like, I probably made the merge with this tribe. Um, and so what kind of set in wasn't a like immediate, I'm so sad I have to vote literally all these people out. But I was sort of like, it kind of sucks that I feel like people don't have a chance. Like, the first 2 off of our tribe, LJ and Jarrett, like, they're great players. Like, they've been very successful in other orgs. And I remember just being like, this is really sucky. Like, we spent all this time pre-gaming and like making all these relationships and alliances, but at the same time, it's like, I don't want to feel like other people don't have a chance. And I mean, to be fair, LJ and Jarrett were both targeting me. So it was a little bit of a like, okay, well, I'm glad they're going because they're both trying to vote me out at the time. But I don't know, like, that was the first time that it kind of hit me of, oh, I don't love the whole pre-gaming thing. I don't love that we have to do this. And now how are we going to do it when it's turning on our friends? And then it really came about again at the Allen vote.
Were you upset when Alan was voted out? Because I have it here that you were actually trying to work with Alan for season 6 and he was voted out.
Oh, that was the first time that that was the time where I was like, really upset, I would say at first, because it's all like game and I know that, and like it's fine and people are gonna lie and say different things to run their agendas, and that's just how Survivor is. But at the time, it was painted that it was one person's idea and it turned out to be a different person's idea. And I was sort of like, if something like this happens again, like, I'm out. Like, we're not allies anymore because you didn't tell me and like you pulled the wool over me like that. And Alan was someone that I wanted to work with, and like, I just remember how upset he was, and then that made like me upset. Alan, I was not happy at your vote out. Like, don't even pretend. And so that was like really hard because I was like, it's no one deserved to go, but like when it catches you off guard like that, that was one of the only times that I felt like, I can't believe that just happened. And so at the time, feeling that way, I was like very worried about the rest of the game because of that, and having to vote people out like that, because I knew that that was like a really crappy way to go out. So, yeah.
Also talking about,
it was not Christmas for me, Alan. I told you how upset I was.
You also lost a big ally of yours, your bestie Austin, because he got, I think he was 3rd boot or something like that.
Yeah,
but
he was 3rd, and I thought he was joking.
Yeah, he mentioned that in his interview. But talk to me. You obviously lost Alan, but you first lost Austin. I mean, granted, he had a chance to come back because he was in Herzog Island.
Yeah.
Is that what they call it? Okay, because I
Herzog
wasn't.
Island, yeah.
Okay, he was there, but still, like you had just lost Austin. What were you thinking at that point? Did you think like, well, now people are not gonna see me as a big target because Austin's gone? Or were you like, oh damn it, I lost an ally and I can't play with my friend? Because Austin was really sad because obviously he wants to win, but for him it was like not being able to play with his friends. And I
Yeah.
think that's what really got to him.
Yeah. I mean, I was mostly just sad for him at the time. Like, I really did think he was joking because of the message that JP put in saying, like, sorry, Jeff wins. So I thought that meant Jeff wins was gone. And if I'm being honest, it probably helped my game, but it still wasn't, like, it was still very sad for him to go out just because I knew how much it meant to him. I knew, like, all the work that he had put in pregame, and it was kind of like, that was just really sucky because part of the goal had been we didn't really get to play together in season 3 because he ended up quitting, and then we didn't get to play together in season 6 because we were on separate tribes, and then he got voted out. And so it was just kind of a sucky situation. And it was weird that it was so early. Like I didn't expect it that early. But I just remember a bunch of people saying to me, like, this is good for you. This is good for you. And I was like, I mean, you're probably right because people were talking about us as a duo and whatnot. And I had too many duos as it was. But it was very sad. She was getting fire tokens and advantages. Yeah, that's true. I did get his fire tokens and advantages. So that was helpful, but still sad.
Yeah, I think when you go into an all-star season and you know that you have allies, but also friends, it's sad to see your allies and friends go out. And you lost, at that point, you had lost 2 of them with Alan and Austin. What motivates you to keep going? Or at any point after that, like, did you focus more on making bigger relationships with people and like bonds? Or did you like, I think I'm next, let me just see how far I can get?
I mean, honestly, pre-merge, I never thought that I was next. I mean, there's always like that. You're in Survivor, like a blind side, anything is possible. But starting with Fuchao, like I said, it was really like almost unfair. I felt like I was fine. And so I was motivated, I guess, just 1 by the game, and 2, like, I feel like, I mean, I think Alan was upset at the time. But I think Austin would have been like, if I can't win, you please try to. So stuff like that. And yeah, I don't know. Just, I mean, I still wanted to keep going. I wasn't like dead in the water. It wasn't until like later that I was like, oh, I'm going to have to start picking between people. And this like really, really sucks because it was sad to lose Austin, but I didn't have to vote him out. And like, it was sad to lose Vamp, but I didn't vote him out.
Talking about the swap situation, how did you handle the dynamic of Rachel, Christina, Gabe, and Amanda? Christina told you she had an idol.
She did.
How did you not receive a vote on you?
How did I not?
Yeah, how did you not receive any votes towards you when she had an idol? Did someone... I'm also reading off what Gabe said, so I'm literally translating Maltese right now.
Oh, okay.
But apparently she had an idol. Did she play it? And when she played it, did you receive any votes?
No, but I did get Amanda to give me her idol because she had one that was only good at that tribal council that we helped her solve the riddle. Ironically, I remember Gabe was actually really upset that Christina told me about the idol before him, which was kind of fun to just poke at him and be like, haha.
So he wasn't always in control, like knowing everything.
I mean, he found out, but it was just kind of a fun moment where he was like, she told you? And I was like, but that vote, I think Christina and Rachel basically, from my knowledge, had not a great relationship on their original tribe, and me, Gabe, and Amanda did have a good relationship, and so we pretty much knew it would be between the 2 of them. And Christina had the idol. She first told me she gave it to Vamp, and I was like, really? Like, are you sure? And she said, yep, I promise. And then she messaged me like 15 minutes after we hung up the phone. She was like, yeah, I lied. I have the idol. And I just feel like I need to tell you. And I was like, I appreciate it. Like, I hope we can stay together. Like, I don't want you to go this vote. And so we ended up voting out Rachel. Rachel tried to get the votes on Gabe. We knew that she was going to try to put the votes on either me or Gabe. And I was nervous that like something would go wrong. And so I was like, Amanda, give me your idol. And because we knew Amanda was fine, she was like the theoretical in the middle one, even though she wasn't in the middle. And so at least I knew I was safe that tribal, but I didn't get any votes anyway. Rachel voted for Gabe, but it didn't matter. We had the votes to vote out Rachel. And then this might sound bad, but I like almost wanted to throw the next challenge because I was so worried about Vamp, and the worst thing happened, and we won and they lost and he went home.
Oh.
Yeah.
Talk to me about Rachel's vote out, because then I have it over here that's when Amanda fake cries.
Oh my gosh. I was dying. I was literally dying.
The full story is needed.
Yeah, so Amanda was supposed to pretend like she was like blindsided by that. And so we're all still on the Zoom because I think we did like 2 tribals, like 2 went there, and Jeff Wins was like getting voted out at that tribal while we were still on Zoom. And so Rachel had left and it was just me, Christina, Gabe, and Amanda. And Amanda texted us and she's like, I got this, guys. Don't worry. I'll like pretend I was blindsided. And she like turned her camera off and we just hear like a sniffle and a like, and we're like, and I had to immediately just like turn off my camera and mute because I was laughing so hard. And I watched Gabe's face just in like shock. And we both messaged her and we're like, stop, this is overboard. This is too much. Like, don't do this. And Christina, I think, messaged us and was like, is she serious? And we were like, I don't know. And she was like, are you okay, Amanda? And it was just like one of those really awkward moments that was so funny. And we were just like, I can't believe that just happened.
Talking about the vote back at an advantage. The advantage was given to somebody who got the most votes for the comeback challenge. The result was a 4-3-3-1-1 for Austin. Thoughts on voting for Vamp instead? You voted for Austin to come back, right?
Well, I voted for him to get the advantage, yeah.
Would you have voted for Vamp?
That honestly, that was really hard because that sucked. Another thing about the Vamp vote was Gabe and I had a shared walk away that literally completely slipped my mind. Like, I just was not on my radar at all. And after he was voted out, I remembered it, and I was like, Gabe, if I had wanted to send that to Vamp so that he stays and Mariah went out instead, would you have been okay with that? Because we would both have to okay it because it was a shared advantage. And he was like, yeah, like absolutely 100%. And that like really killed me that I could have saved him. And it just like slipped my mind because in my head, I was like, are we going to throw, like, can I ask them to throw the challenge so he stays? Like, what can I do? And then I was like, I've got to just let it happen. And then to realize that I had the power to keep him and I just forgot about it was like killed me. And so then I'm not going to say it was like an easy decision, but Austin had been the one sending me fire tokens. Like he had been like working to help me in the game. And I felt like 1, he's Austin, and 2, I really owed it to him. And so I couldn't not vote for him to get the advantage when he had been so good to me in the game so far.
You end up winning the Sequester Immunity Challenge.
Yeah, it's trying really hard to lose that though.
Why?
Because I feel like it's not a good look to win the Sequester. I don't know. I just don't feel like it's a good look.
I want that done on my season, and I thought I was like, wow, I'm playing a great game, and something happened. I was blindsided. I didn't go home. But talking on a contrast to your experience, you won the Sequester Immunity Challenge. Is that when like Stacy starts throwing out your name?
Yeah, I think so. Around there. Yeah, I remember, I think it started in the Sequester. I don't even know if it was in the game, but I think it was like in the Sequester it was like the second or third vote, and people were like, Stacy's really trying to get you out. And I was like, in the sequester or in the game? And they were like, I think she means the sequester. And I was like, okay, like that's weird. Like, are people going for it? And they were like, no, don't worry. Like, we're not going to vote you out. And I was like, okay, like, I don't know why. And then I asked her about it and she said, no, like that wasn't true. And I was like, okay, like I'll pretend I believe that. But yeah, I don't know how much that transitioned to the game, slash if when she was trying to get me out in the game, but I do remember that in the sequester. And then I remember by the end, like begging people to vote for me, and they were like, no, we're gonna vote out this person. And I was like, guys, I don't want to win the sequester.
Do you think that it put a target on your back for sure, or was that just like, oh no, it's okay?
Maybe like that much, but I think people knew. Like Gabe and I started on the same tribe and were together through the whole thing. Like it was no secret that I had a relationship with Abby and Garrett. It was no secret that I had a relationship with Amanda and Bianca. Like I think it was a known thing, and I don't think me winning the sequester was like, oh my gosh, we can't believe that she's maybe with these people. I think it just was like, okay, yeah, it's still true.
So Mariah gets voted out, and then Amy and Christina in a row. Talk to me how that happened. And it says that Amy probably was most famously yours for ensuring the votes on a 5-4 too.
Yeah, that was so sad because it was Amy's birthday. But I had some conversation with, I think it was Bo. I'd have to look back, but there was some conversation I had with someone, and it didn't feel right. And I really felt like they had idols. And I didn't have like evidence of it, but I just really felt like they had idols. And they had tried to make a plan to vote out Gabe. And at this point, Gabe is like my closest ally. And I was like, this is not worth it. And I remember him being like, there's no way they vote of idols. Just like, if it happens, like, I go home. And I was like, no, like, if you go home, then I'm the big target. So, like, you can't go home. And you work with me, like, you can't go home. And so I was like, I know it's horrible. Like, I'm really hoping that they don't have them because I don't want Amy to go home on her birthday, but I just really feel like the safe option is to put the votes on Amy. And I don't want it to sound devious because I really didn't want her to go home, but I felt like it was the best strategic move to do that, to not just split Bo and Stacy, but to put those votes on Amy. And I also knew that they weren't going to tell Christina about that. And I knew that Christina was closer with Bianca, Gabe, and Amanda than she was with myself at this point. And so I was okay letting there be a little bit of a severed relationship there, or a little bit of a like, you guys didn't tell me about this type thing. When she saw that there were votes on Amy, and especially if Amy went home. And so, yeah, I felt like that was my best move to make there, even though it was really sad that happened.
You also received your first vote since the LJ boot in Christina's vote out in a 6-2, 1-1.
Yeah.
Where Bo used his idol. What went wrong with over there in that vote out?
Like, how did I get the votes? Or a vote? I think they were just doing like a split the minority vote thing where basically we put 2 votes on Christina just in case Bo had an idol, and he did. And so because of that, she went home. But I think they were just assuming that either myself or Gabe had an idol, and that if one of them played it, we might be triggered to play it, and then therefore the other one of them would get votes. I don't know what was going through their head exactly, but that might be my guess. And I think they were just trying to get one of us out, if in the ideal world, but then we put votes on Christina, so it didn't matter.
What do you think led to your demise on season 6 with your vote out? Do you think that at the time people were putting you as someone that was working closely with Gabe, or do you think that people just saw you as a big threat to keep you longer in the game?
Honestly, it's hard to say. I think it was like a few things. And we've all kind of like, myself, Gabe, Amanda, and Bianca have kind of talked about it, and it sounds like there might have been a slight miscommunication but also was a little bit of plotting on Amanda's part, where basically when I got voted out, Gabe told me, like, it's because you were targeting me. And I was like, are you kidding? Like, you think I was targeting you? Like, what are you talking about? I was like, I just forced everyone to put votes on Amy to make sure that you didn't go home. And he was like, Bianca told me that you're targeting me. And I was like, you're crazy. Like, you're getting so played right now, and it's funny. But then I found out afterwards that Bianca really did think I was targeting Gabe, where basically half my experience on season 6 was people coming to me and saying, we're going to vote out Gabe. And I'd be like, no, stop it, not yet. And so then we like would just wait and we wouldn't do it yet. So to me, that was just like another instance of that. And where sometimes I would just be like, yeah, like we'll do it. Like, oh, we'll do it. Like it'll, and then we'd end up voting out someone else. And so to me, that was just another instance of that. But I guess when Bianca told me like, hey, we're going to vote out Gabe at 8, I was like, I do think it actually might have happened that one time. But I was like, I can either tell him to use the walkway or like I'm not going to be able to personally just anymore be like, okay, we're not voting out Gabe, and they're not going to listen. And so I was sort of just thinking about, oh, like, will I tell him that or whatever? And then it somehow was told that I was targeting him, and I was like, I am so confused because that was not, like, you can check my messages. Like, I was not targeting you. And I guess Amanda had talked to both myself and Bianca about voting out Gabe, and we both said okay to her, and so she told both of us that the other one was like targeting Gabe, and I guess Bianca told him like, hey, McKenna's targeting you. And so also, if any of you guys are watching, correct me if I'm wrong, because this is just like my memory. But basically, it sounds like it was like somewhat of a miscommunication, somewhat of a, I think people knew like that we were pretty close and that we needed to be separated. And so I think it was partially that. And yeah, maybe there were other things that I just don't know about.
To be fair, I feel like at that point he became like your Austin, where he probably like your ride or die, and also he's a winner. So I mean, at that point, like either take a shot at a winner or his closest ally, from my
Yeah.
perspective. Did you feel like you were pulled down by some people's drama in season 6, and would you have done so much better without Gabe had gone sooner? I think Gabe would have gone.
If he had gone sooner, like drama wise?
I don't know. That's Gabe's question. He says like,
interesting.
I guess people's dramas, because I know season 6 was kind of controversial, and
Yeah.
there was a lot of mixed feelings. Do you think that influenced people to like target you, or would you just staying away from the drama and just like, I need to just focus on getting as far as I can and win, and just like not try to like make any waves with anybody and get involved in conflict?
Yeah, I mean, it's sort of hard to say. I think, well, one, I'm an Enneagram 9, so I'm very anti-conflict. Like, I don't like to get involved in that stuff, just like naturally, I guess. But I think a lot of the time it's hard to separate what's game, what's personal. I think people have different lines. People have different expectations going into a season. People have different ideas of how much your friendship affects whether you are ride or die alliances to the end or not. And so I wouldn't say I got like super involved because of other people. Like, I know people had their issues, and I had like one issue after season 6 that I hope has cleared up where it was basically like, I just didn't want to talk about the season until it was over. Like, I didn't want to be someone who was like talking to people. I didn't want to be someone like sharing lies or whatever. I don't know. And I think I was almost in a weird way relieved when I was voted out. Like, obviously it sucks to be voted out, but also I was like, I don't have to pick. Like, I don't have to be the one to cut this relationship. I don't have to be the one to end this person's game that they've been planning and pre-gaming and playing for the last 5 months and tell them it's not going to happen for them. And that goes for like everyone left. I'm not thinking of like one person in particular. But no, I wouldn't say I like regret it. Like if I got involved in drama, that was probably somehow my fault. And I know that there are miscommunications, and sometimes people say something and over Messenger you think they mean a different thing, or you think that they have a different tone with it. And I think that sometimes people can take things the wrong way, and you're worked up and you're in the heat of the game, and like in a way they're silly little games, but also in a way at the moment they're like everything to us, and they're what we've worked hard for. And so because of that, I don't really like blame anyone. Like everyone's feelings are valid, but like it's so hard. It's, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Would you say that that was your toughest season 6, because you had to like deal with so many people that you have gone closer to throughout the months?
Yeah, for sure. And like I said, I don't think I was prepared for how affected I would be by that. And like, I don't know if this was going to be a later question, but like that's part of why I didn't play 9 or 10. Because I was like I'm a pretty friendly person, I like to think, and
You are,
I
by the
like I
way.
want to work with new people. Like
Mhm.
I don't ever like I love like the friends that I have, and like I would never want to like go into a game with a friend and like have the intention of betraying them or anything. But also like in Corey's org, there's a lot of cool people, like and a lot of people that I think I could work well with, and so I would want to try that. And I feel like the idea of conflicting with that, and if like someone messages you and is like, "Hey, I really want to work together in this game," and I do too, I don't want to say yes at the time, because I think at the time I could be like, yes, I want to work with you, like this sounds great, and then I don't want to be put in a position later where it's like, oh, I have to pick between this friend I've had for a long time where it's just this expected alliance, but this is
Mhm.
a person that I've been working with, that I started on a tribe with. I have no reason to betray them except for this other friend. And I think that's where things like can get messy, and where it's not worth it. Like I don't want to put myself in a position that I regret putting myself in when there's a lot of games to play.
We've talked about season 6, how it was so controversial in its own way.
Mm-hmm.
How what was the toughest moment for you on season 6? And to contrast that, what was one thing, a positive thing that you took away from season 6 after it ended for you?
The toughest I was when I realized I could have saved Vamp, and I just didn't. I remember messaging a couple people. I think to be honest, I think I asked Corey. I was like, "Can you put him in? Like, remove me and put him back in the game. Like, I feel so guilty about this, and like, one, I'm already worried about upsetting people. Two, he probably deserves it more than me. Has a better chance than me. Like I was like really sad at that point. And also during All Stars, I was in like a grad school placement that I like was very not happy in, and I was working like 11-hour days and then coming home and having class, and then we would have a Corey's org episode, and I just felt like there was a lot of stress. And so I think like I was a little more, I don't want to say emotional, but like if something like went wrong in the game, it probably just hit me a little harder at that point in time. And so I do remember when Vamp was voted out, and it was like we were one, because the next one was the merge, and we were one vote away from being able to play together. And we had just seen each other on a trip, where we were like, we can't talk about the game, but we sent Corey a confessional video of the two of us, and we were like, here's your future final two, like coming at you. Like, we're so excited for the merge. We're so excited to play together. Like, it's what we've been waiting for. Are you ready to watch us like conquer the game together? And then like knowing that he was going to be voted, and I would never blame Abby or Garrett in that scenario. Like I knew he was gone. Like that was just a sucky tribe swap for him. They totally made the right move, but it was just like sad for me. And then when I realized that I could have done that, and Gabe said yes, I would have given it to him, I was like, like I was just like depressed for a day. So that was the worst. The best. What was the best? It's hard to single one out, I guess, because like as much as it was like controversial in some ways and there were ups and downs, like I did have a lot of fun.
Mm-hmm.
I guess this isn't like a specific moment, but I liked just being able to come home. Like I said, I was in a stressful job, and I had moved an hour and a half away from home, so I didn't know anyone in the area, and I didn't really have time to make friends because I worked 11 hours each day. But it was just really nice to, even if they were alliance calls and we would talk like strategy or something, it was just nice to be able to come home and like have people that like wanted to video chat. And yeah, it was for the game, but like I love the game and I love Survivor. And it really felt like my social community at the time being in All Stars because I had no one in that area with me. And so just like the community aspect of season 6, even as hard as it was at times, was like just a really good thing for me to have at that point, I think.
You've talked about how hard it was to vote out like potential allies and friends you've made throughout playing season 6. But like I always say, to me, like I never want to lose a friendship over a game. I'd rather,
Yeah.
let's just like, I don't think I've lost a friendship out of all the games that I played, and it seems like you didn't lose a friend after season 6. Talk to me how important it was for you to not damage any relationships after season 6 because of how cutthroat or how the level of gameplay it was for season 6.
Yeah, I mean, that was very important. That's part of why I said, like, I was in a way relieved when I was voted out. I mean, I definitely had my issues in season 6 or things I should have communicated better that ended up in like little things afterwards. And I hope they're all cleared up. But yeah, to me, like a game is just not worth that, I guess, because the game lasts a month, sometimes 2 months, and friendships are a lot longer than that. So it was definitely a hard balance. I don't know if that like answers the question, but
It actually does. And that was the last season you ever played so far from Corey's Org. You
yeah.
actually answered my question because I was going to ask you. Um, but one thing that I took from that, because the first time I met you was at a Bible study on season 7. I think it was like the first week or a couple of weeks. But I asked you and Van Patella a question, and you guys answered it. I was actually shocked. Because I asked you guys, like, you've been voted out, and then like I asked you, does it get better? Getting voted off, and you both said like, no, it doesn't get better. I thought you would have said like, yeah, you know what, it's okay. And at the time, you actually were playing season 9 of Survivor Fan Jury.
Oh
I
yeah.
think it was Greece with Nick Whitney and LJ and Vampatella. You guys were playing together. Um, you haven't come back for Corey Zorg, but then outside of Corey Zorg, you decided to play this game. Talk to me how different it was from Corey Zorg going to another season with some allies that you had played with or
Mm-hmm.
friends, and then meeting the different people outside of Corey Zorg. Were you more free to like navigate a game, or were you kind of like, like, I don't know, I've only played Corey Zorg. Is this going to be harder?
Yeah, it was very different. And to be honest, I wasn't going to do it at first, but they needed girls. And I was like, all right, okay. And to be honest, if I hadn't played that season, I don't know that I ever would have branched out from Corey's org. Like, not saying I would have played more of Corey's org, but I might have just been like done. I think that was sort of like the ticket that then got me onto that All-Star season that got me to play other orgs just in general. But I really joined that season because, like I mentioned, like Vamp got voted out one before the merge. We really just like wanted to play together. And so we were both going to play that. And then we had Nick playing 2 and LJ. And then we all ended up on the same tribe, which was like insane. Yes, Austin saying you're welcome. Yes, Austin is the reason that I played other games. I owe him a huge thank you. And so we all ended up on the same tribe, and it was 9 people on a tribe. And we knew that once we got voted out, or once we voted out one person, like the 4 of us were kind of like good, and that was crazy. And then on the swap, all 4 of us were together again, and it was like, wow, like this is crazy. And so I did branch out and meet other people, but I was mostly just concerned with them in the beginning, to be honest. I did have another alliance with Paul, who you guys have met, that played season 11 of Corey's org, and I ended up playing again with. And then another guy named Kellen. I think he's in this org page. I don't actually know. But he's really nice too. And so I got talking to them, and then I met another girl named Allie in that game later on. And it wasn't until the merge of that game where I'd say I like really, really was invested, because I was used to Corey's org, which was video calls, Zooms constantly. And this org was like, you just message someone, you say, hey, you share a little bit about yourself, and then you say, I like you. Let's start a group chat of people that we want to work with. And so it just sort of felt a little bit less intense because it was solely through Messenger. And so it wasn't, and I think because of that, it just made me feel more chill. I knew that I had the boys on that tribe and then the swap tribe, and it was just easier to coast. And then I think it was at the merge, there was one vote before Nick was blindsided that I really wanted to make happen. But I think other than that, it wasn't until Nick went home that I was like, oh no, like I really need to turn it on now. Like we don't just have each other anymore. And so, I mean, obviously it sucked losing Nick. He was definitely a front runner to win the season. He was doing great, but I think LJ went with the other side because he felt like he was on the bottom, which to be fair, he was, of the four of us. Like, I don't like blame him. He was right. And so then at that point, it was like cool to like talk to other people. And like, I got really lucky that game. I tend to get lucky in games. I don't know why, but it just happens. And I got quite a few advantages, and so that helped. And then Vamp went out on rocks.
I want to quote something that I heard. You were the idol queen of that season?
Yes.
Or advantage?
I think it was idols. I think I had 3 idols that season. But a lot of them like expired at earlier tribals, and so I was like, I don't think I need this, but like I guess I should play it just in case. And I tried playing one on a different girl just to try to get her to trust me, who ended up working with me long term in the most recent Big Brother game I played. So that may have helped there, ironically. And then I played one on LJ, which ended up saving LJ. And yeah, it ended up being a really, really fun end of that season. Well, aside from losing Nick and Vamp, because Vamp went out on rocks, which really sucked. But I made friends with that girl, Allie. I had like a very good, like respectful relationship with the other side, I would say, even though that one girl, Katya, and then Paul and Kellen were sort of against myself, Allie and LJ by the end. Like, I felt like there was like a mutual respect there. It was sort of like a, look, we're all playing the game. Like, I don't think there was any animosity. And so I really enjoyed that aspect of it, because it was like, I'm fine voting them out, because like at that point we weren't friends. I mean, we had like talked a little bit, but it was nothing like Corey's org friendships. And so it was like, we respect the vote outs. Like, I was fine that they voted me out. Like, if anything, it was a compliment that they voted me out. And so, yeah, I don't know. It was really fun to branch out, and I was kind of surprised by that. And I eventually got put in a spot where I pretty much had to Mike Holloway myself to the end, because I knew I was going to get targeted every single tribal, and I did not win all the immunities. Unfortunately, that is where my Wi-Fi went out. And so because of that, I ended up in 5th, but it was really fun, and it got me a spot on the next season. So
how fun was it, or talk to me the experience of getting to work with Vamp this time around after not doing that on season 6? And apparently Austin says that you also talked to the host to swap Vamp.
Yeah, when he got rocked out, I was like, put him in, take me out, put him in, like rig the rocks. Yeah, I tried that there too. It didn't work either time. I don't know. I just feel like he's very naturally social, very naturally likable. Like, I don't see a world where he loses in the end. And so he probably is always going to have a better shot at winning than me. And so I felt bad that both times that we were on a season together, he went out first.
You end up
what was your original question?
I think you answered it. What was it playing with him and this time around from season 6? My next question is actually, you placed 5th, but then the season next after is an all-star season with coming back for, the theme is actually heroes versus villains.
Yeah.
And you end up coming back, and spoiler alert, you end up winning that season. You get casted for the heroes tribe, and there's this alliance that just dominated. I feel like from Austin's perspective and following the season, your alliance just dominated with Allie, yourself, the former season 9 winner, Paul and Nick Whitney. The four of you
Yeah.
just made Final Four, and at the end, you got all the votes except for one, I believe, over
Yeah,
Paul.
I won 9-1. Yeah.
Talk to me how different that was for you. Did you think it was kind of like, oh my god, this is season 6 all over again, because it is a kind of an all-star season from the other seasons, and then the relationships that had to play into it and having to overcome, and it's your first win ever in an org.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so it's really special. I was actually talking in the host chat about that earlier. Like, there's nothing like your first win.
Mm-hmm.
Honestly, no, it was nothing like Corey's org, because Paul and I solidified being absolute ride or dies on day one. But other than that, like, All Stars of Corey's org, I went in like thinking about like so many relationships, and basically going into Heroes versus Villains, I was worried that like everyone else would have those, because there were a lot of like veterans in the org. There were a lot of people that had past relationships. There were a lot of people that were like professionals. Like, they had played so many. And this is still only my second game in my second org. And so I was worried that I would be like a nobody, someone that was an easy vote out, someone who just gets dragged far. And so I didn't really go into it with expectations. I was just sort of like, okay, I hope I make the merge. Like, the goal will be to make the jury, because it's more fun when you get to be in the Ponderosa chat and talk about everyone. And so that was really my goal. And also, I was starting on the Heroes tribe, I think was a little bit of an advantage, in my opinion, because I think the people who are put on the Heroes tend to be the people who are very loyal and who are very less likely to flip, less likely to do that stuff, and like still very, very good players. I think those were some of the best players I've ever played with. But there's a reason that they're on the Heroes and not the villains. And so I think having those foundational relationships with a lot of heroes who are known for being loyal, are known for being like good, strong, but reliable players, was really advantageous to me. And then getting swapped and getting Nick, who was willing to work with any heroes that I wanted, I think it just like, it was really a blessing the way that the swaps went. Like I said, I get really lucky. I don't know why. I don't know what it is. But I was put in a very good position, and I do think I like made some good moves and everything. But like the expectations I had going in versus how well it ended, it was kind of crazy. But it did have a little bit of the Corey's org effect, where I was like, oh shoot, like I really like a lot of these people. And Leslie, Dylan, and Austin can tell you that I was in my confessional all the time, like, I don't know that it's worth it. Like, I don't want to vote them out. Like, this sucks. Like, they're so nice. And they send me pictures of their dogs, and they tell me about the movies that they like. And like, one of them sent me a picture of a quilt she was making, and I was like, that is just the sweetest thing ever. Like, I don't want to vote you out. And I hadn't made it to the end of an org before. I didn't know exactly how to do the whole jury management thing. And so I was just I felt like I was going in blind with that. And so it was sort of a like, I hope they respect how I voted them out, but what if they don't? And what if I still get voted out and it doesn't matter and they're mad at me? Or what if I make it to the end and they hate me? And I was just like, this kind of sucks. Like, it's not really worth it unless I win. And like, even if I win, what if they're all still mad at me? I don't know. I had just never been in that position before. And so it was a lot to think about and a lot to weigh out. But at the end of the day, like, I still wanted to play, and I signed up for the game. So I was going to finish it. And I mean, I was never like not going to finish it, but like, I remember at the merge being put in a position where I was like, oh, like, I could do this. Like, I could actually do this. And it's kind of crazy to think this. And knowing me, I'm going to screw it up somehow. But like, there's definitely a way that I could do this. And then getting to the end, I was like so excited because I had never been to the end of an org before. And I made it there with Nick and Paul. Like, who else could I have? That was literally like the ideal scenario. Like, if you had asked me at the beginning of the game, who are you going to be sitting at the end of the game with? I probably would have said Nick and Paul. And so I think things worked out in my favor. I think I played well. A lot of people trusted me. I didn't really know why, but a lot of people did, and it worked out. And then they were really, you know, like they were tough jury questions, but like they were all really nice and respected the game. And I think I've said like I have this like desire to want to be viewed as a hero, but like I want to play like a villain, if that makes sense. Like I want to be the hero and the good guy, and I don't want to be like the evil one that makes people upset. But at the end of the day, like I watch Survivor for the strategy, and I love to see the moves that people make, and I love to see how they play the game. And I'm not going to join an org and not do that and just sit back and let someone else make all of the decisions. And so it's sort of like a inner battle, but at the end of the day, like I tried to make the moves and I guess they respected it, and then I won, and it was really exciting. And they were all really nice to me afterwards about it. Like no one was bitter. It was great.
That's awesome. I would say that you just said something that you wanted to play like a hero, but also, I mean, viewed as a hero, but also play like a villain. I would say that you're kind of like the same as what I got from when I first won my first game. One of the compliments that I got was, and I think this applies to you as well, was one of the nicest persons to play, but also strategic. And I do think that you're one of the nicest people to play in orgs. But also, I've never played with you, but you're just a great person, but also very strategic. So I think that's maybe what happened with you. I feel like sometimes it could be viewed as like villainous, but it's also like we've seen like a Sari, like she's very strategic and somewhat cutthroat, but everybody loves her. So I would kind of put you in the Sari category as well as JT from Token Teens when he was like, we'll talk about him pretty soon, but I think that's the best way I can describe your gameplay. And talk to me how it was for you when you knew that you had won your first game after all those seasons that you had played. What was the feeling after finally winning your first game?
Oh my gosh, it was like amazing. Like I kind of didn't believe it at first because like I said, I think everyone goes in to a game thinking I'd like to try to win. Like I'm going to do my best. But like I don't go into a game expecting to win, if that makes sense. Like I go in expecting to make friends and to have a good time and to enjoy the game and to have a hobby when I'm like done work. And so to like actually win was just like really, really exciting and felt like a huge accomplishment because of like, I think the level of players in that game, like people told me like, that's such a stacked cast. And I was like, I don't know who any of them are, but like, cool. Like I'm playing with greats. And to be honest, I think that helped me. Like, there are people that just had targets on their back from the day the game started because they had a reputation. And I did not have that. I was a nobody in the SFJ community. And so I think that helped me. But I don't know, it was really nice. And it made me want to play other orgs, and it let me keep up with people. And I've tried other orgs, and I've made friends in those. And yeah, I don't know. I think the first win is always the most special though. Like sure. I can't picture winning a game and it feeling like that, because I really felt like that was my game to lose, if that makes sense. And I don't mean that like Nick and Paul were great. Like if they had won the season, like I think it's still a fantastic season and they would have been great winners. But to win that season, I remember thinking like I felt like I could see the game. I felt like there was just a map in front of me, and I was just like picking the route that I wanted to take, and just like having that feeling and like feeling like I picked correctly and like I did everything that I could, and like hearing some of the jurors like vouch for me playing a good game, like Allie, who I had just beaten in final immunity, and it was like a 2.5 hour comp. And I felt horrible voting her out after she did all that. And she played so well. And that's why she had to be voted out. And I knew it was going to like crush her. But then to see her be like, tell everyone how amazing you were. Like you played one heck of a game. And I'm so proud of that. Like, I think it was that, like, not even like seeing the votes read for me, but like the comments with them, if that makes sense, of like, you played well. And it's just sort of affirming like, wow, I've been a fan of the show for 21 years, and here I am like showing that I can do something and like a little simulation of it. And so it's just a cool feeling.
You have also played other orgs, not necessarily Survivor but Big Brother, but I just want to keep a little bit more focused on Survivor fan jury games for a little bit, because I want to talk about something that just happened a couple of months ago. You're actually the most recent co-host or host from Survivor Fan Jury Games, with making your debut on season 11. Season 11 just finished. Um, and talk to me how that experience was for you, being behind the scenes now, as not as a player but as a host, and how has it been, being able to help host this game that it is your first org win, and then
Mhm.
also you play twice. Is that more special now to you, being part of the
Oh
host
yeah.
and seeing the new players, and then also going through that journey yourself? How has this experience been, and also working alongside Leslie, Dylan, and Austin, who are your, I guess, co-workers, but you know.
Yeah, I mean, I loved it. Like they'll admit, like when we would say something in the chat, I'd be like, "Can I host tribal tonight? Like this is fun." Like I was just really excited about it. And you're right, like that org will always like hold a special place in my heart. Like Corey's org will too. It was the first org I ever played, but that one was sort of my first win and sort of it felt like my first breakout game. Like Corey's org was almost more for social purposes, and I felt like that was my first org to like play orgs. And so then to also be my first win, to have like made friends in the org. I already was friends with Austin as a host. Like now I'm good friends with Dylan and Leslie too. It just like it felt like it fit. And so then when they asked me to help host, I was like, yeah, like that sounds like so much fun. Why would I not do this? And so to be behind the scenes is cool. Like I love the prod chat. I love like talking about everything. I love seeing everyone's thoughts and confessionals, even though I don't always read all of them, to be honest. But I read enough. And so just like seeing all that happen and being able to like run challenges and do travel, like it's just a lot of fun. And I think it's a good way to be like involved without having as much of the commitment, because when there's 4, like soon to be 5 of us, like you can split up tribal and challenges and you can do like 1 a week or something. Whereas if you like play an org, it might be like 2 to 3 nights. You have to be there for the challenge, the tribal, all that. And so it's like involvement, still being around and talking to the org people without having that like pressure.
I think that's awesome that you get to experience a different side from, not just being a player, but also hosting. And I think it does give you a different perspective, as from a different view as hosting now, not just as a player. So I think that's very exciting. I was very excited for you when I saw that you were one of the new hosts. I think you're awesome, and I think you're doing a great job so far.
Thank
And
you.
no, I didn't. I kind of mispronounced that. I think you're doing a great job, regardless. I think I was like so
Oh,
far.
you're good.
Sorry. And then now I wanted to switch the conversation to something else. You actually have. I know this because I've been able to get to know you, and we are in the same chat of playing Secret Hitler and Among Us. But you've also mentioned that you share the same love for Big Brother, not just Survivor, because you've watched Big Brother seasons and you've actually played 2 Big Brother games, and both games you've won. Talk about how that's been, from switching from Survivor and then going to Big Brother. Is it the same? Not really. Is it a different dynamic, or do you still think with a Survivor mind, like strategic or anything like that?
Yeah, I mean, I just got into Big Brother in like November. Season 22 was my first season. Like when it aired, the All-Star season, ironically. And so I've gone back and I've been watching other seasons. I've seen like probably half at this point, and I'm still working through one of them right now. But I just wanted to try Big Brother for something different. And so I wasn't sure what I was going to do. And then Jeremy, shout out to Jeremy, you're awesome, invited me to play a game that their friend was hosting. And so I ended up doing that with Jeremy, and it was like really fun. And we had a group of 4 of us that got to be like a tight alliance, and we would video call all the time after almost every competition to talk about things, to talk about strategy, to talk about what we wanted to do. And we ended up making the final 4, and Jeremy and I ended up making the final 2. And it was so much fun. And I do think I approach Big Brother with a Survivor mindset. I don't know. I mean, I guess that helps me since I've won. But Big Brother's like very competition based, at least in my opinion, for a lot of people. And I don't like to think of it as competition based. I think of it as more socially based. Sort of the idea of like, you just have to be good with everyone. Like you don't have to be so close that your ride or dies with everyone, but you just need to be close enough that you're not in their bottom two so that you won't go on the block. So just kind of evolving those relationships throughout the game that you're constantly staying above their bottom two people, or maybe three, depending on if there's a replacement nominee. And oh, hi, Jeremy. And so just keeping that like in mind throughout. I've gotten really fortunate in the games that I've played. Like, I've had really great allies. Like, all the games that I've won, like, I could not have done Heroes Villains without Nick and Paul. I could not have done Keyholder without Jeremy. And us being the final two was just, like, one of the most amazing experiences ever. Like, I remember after Jeremy won the final HOH and brought me with, and we were like, I can't believe we did this. Like, this was the plan. But, like, I can't believe we did this. Like, that's so crazy. And Jeremy would have been a great winner too. It was just like such a fun season. I think we played really similarly but slightly different. And then I got to play, what was the other one? Oh, Big Brother Thirsty. I started with Austin. Unfortunately lost him after a little bit in to the season, but I actually ended up getting to play with a girl that I met in SFJ Greece. And so she was my hopeful to the end. She didn't end up getting to the end with me, which was unfortunate. But then I think I was actually the underdog going into that finals. And I think it was my speech that flipped them, which was cool. I'm glad that they took the time to read it and appreciated it. And I ended up winning because of it. But yeah, I think I definitely go in with a survivor mentality. And I don't think that always works. I think it depends on the cast. It depends on the game. It depends on the advantages in the game. Like, I've never played with like super big powers. Like, I haven't played with like a coup d'etat or whatever it's called in Big Brother. I haven't played a game with one of those. Like, I'm sure it gets harder. But yeah, it's been fun to try out Big Brother. I think the next game I do want to go back to Survivor because I think it feels like home. And it is more stressful because in Big Brother, if you're not on the block, you're kind of like, you want one of the two to stay usually, but you're not like, I need to be talking to people tonight. I need to give up my personal life to talk to people. So it's been a nice like break, but I would like to play another Survivor.
Switching the conversation, I think we mentioned them before, but is it safe to say that JT is your favorite player from all time from Survivor? Or
It's
one
between,
of the...
I think on my list he's two. For me, it's hard to rank anyone above Rob Mariano because I loved him since season 4. I think that he did so much for the game of Survivor. Rob and Amber were like, I wanted to be Amber when I grew up because like seeing their All-Stars journey and then like get to the final 2, get engaged, both get cars. Like I just wanted that experience when I was like a little 8-year-old watching Survivor All-Stars. So it's hard to top that, but like I do love JT very much.
Is there any goals you have right now for the future? Not, I guess, like not really org related, and it could be org related as well. But right now that you're going back to, I guess, like more of a normal life with like the COVID, like thing, like things going back to normal. Not really, but people are going back to work and their life is kind of taking off and not being able to do as much of the orgs as they could before because of lockdown.
Yeah. So like a life goal? Honestly, just like my new job. Like I've been very fortunate with the job that I got. The people are great. The kids are great. My hours are flexible-ish, depending. But it's just like a really nice experience, but it's also like my fellowship year. So it's a lot of like work after work and stuff like that. And so just like getting acclimated and like getting that fellowship year done so that I'm like a certified SLP, which like I expect it to happen, but it's still like a goal to be there and be done and finish all that.
Besides winning, you're having your 3 wins. What has been your proudest achievements or some of the proudest achievements in the orgs that you've gone to do?
My proudest achievement. Oh gosh. I don't know. That's really hard.
It doesn't have to be one specific thing. It could be multiple things. It could be little things, anything that just stands out for you.
Can I just say like all the friends that I've made?
That was actually going to be my question, the follow up. I was going to say, would it be the many friendships that you've developed, like with Austin, Jeremy, sharing that final two experience and how special it was to get to the end with your ride or die?
Mm-hmm.
And then, you know, I know it's only been like a year, but a lot of people do get really close, especially in these orgs. And,
Yeah.
you know, the friendships that come out of this, I think that's very special. How has that, you know, inspired you, or um, how has that been for you with this year with COVID and stuff and going through all of that?
Oh yeah, it's been like the best because I'm like a social butterfly, and that's why part of me like worries that in orgs like I go overboard because I just like to talk to people and I
Mhm.
like to just get to know people, and it's not all like me trying to have social gain. It's just me being like, oh my gosh, like I'd love to see a picture of your dog. Here's the 40 dogs that I've had. And then we just like keep talking. And so I'm just kind of like that. And so then when COVID shut everything down, I mean, and I couldn't go out with friends and I wasn't at Penn State anymore. And I was just stuck in my house, and my mom would only let me go get one iced coffee every day because that was my requirement to survive. Um, like it was like the best thing ever. Like the org life, I guess, like saved me during COVID because I could still talk to people, and like just having like friends available at every time. And I didn't know, like I knew that people like connected on the internet, but I didn't like know if that makes sense.
Mhm.
Like I knew that you could kind of connect, but I never imagined it would be something like this, and that I would have people that I would like talk to every day, like visit to see from like around the country. Like that idea would have been so foreign to me like 18 months ago. And if you had told me I would be doing that, I probably would have said you were crazy. Um, but I don't know. It's also like there's so many different people out there, and like I'm very different from a lot of the people I've met in all the different orgs, and it's just cool to like see people outside of like my high school, Penn State, and family, if that makes sense.
Yep. Is there a survivor player that inspires you in life? You know, they could be like little things or anything, or that you just love, and you're like, you know, I wish I was just like them, or you know, if I ever got into, you know, casted on the Real Survivor, I wish I could play like this person.
I would say in life, it was really like I really idolized Amber Burkich when I was really little. Like I wouldn't say she's someone that I would try to play the game similar to, but just her experience, I just thought she was so perfect and amazing. And she just had the best experience. And then they went on The Amazing Race, and I started watching The Amazing Race just to see Rob and Amber. And I just thought they were like the greatest things in the world when I was a little child. Um, as far as if I went out in the game, I always said I would be Andrea, or that I could maybe see myself trying to be like her, like sort of like a little bit determined, but also like needing to like wanting to be friends with everyone and wanting to be like liked, if that makes sense. And
Mm-hmm.
then when I played Heroes versus Villains, Austin told me that he thought, based on my confessional, he thought that I was Kelly Wentworth, and I could like kind of see that in like the way that I would like think about things, because if I like think about the way that I want to vote to go, or like who I think is with who, and like try to connect like dots of people, like I can just like really go down the rabbit hole of like all these different like, oh my gosh, this makes sense if this person is working with this person because they told this person this, and then they told that person who told me, and I'm like, I can just be a little like that. And so I guess those are the comparisons that I would make.
In real life, if you could meet anybody from Survivor or Big Brother, who are you most excited to meet one day?
Ooh, who would I meet? That's a good one. Probably Tony. I just
Mm.
want to see how he is in real life, if that makes sense. Like he's like such a good player. Like he has everything. He has the strategic mind, he has the entertainment value, he can win challenges. Like he's just all that, and like I feel like that's probably, I think some people are edited a little to be something, but I feel like that's just who he is, and I just want to see him and see him in action. And like if I could be a fly on the wall even for like a day of Tony Blachos, like that would be really cool.
So you're also on top 12 to at best to ever play in Core Zork. How does that feel for you? That there is top 20, but you're in the top 12 to ever play. even though you haven't won Corey's Org, but looking back your journey and how you started in Corey's Org, are you proud of like your journey thus far? If you were never to play again, or if you ever were to play, would it have to be a specific theme or special circumstances?
Yeah, so the first part of that, I mean, obviously it's always an honor to be in the top 20. I almost think that I'm like a story arc, if that makes sense, in Corey's Org. Like, I don't know if I would win like most improved or something, but like just thinking about like the mindset and like my game that I had in season 1 compared to seasons 3 and season 6, like it was like cool to see that evolution, I guess. And then I think that sort of like jump started me to like go into other orgs where I was more successful than in Corey's org. So yeah, it's like very special to be in that. And then if I were to come back, I don't know. That's hard to say because you can't. Well, one, I don't know if it would be like an all returner season or what it would be, because I mentioned my reservations with coming back for something like season 9 or 10. Basically, like there's so many people I would want to play with, like especially after 11 seasons. There's so many people that have joined the org. Like I didn't even know you when the last time I played Corey's org. I had never met you, Ed. Yeah. And so like there's just so many people that I feel like I would want to work with. But like if also like I had close friends playing, I don't know that I could do the conflict of that. So, and I can't reserve in advance, like let me know the cast and then I'll make my decision. Like if it works well for me, I would say I would consider it. I don't know what the season would be, but I would consider it, but I would need it to be scheduled. I like working till 8 on Tuesdays and Thursdays, like, and then I have something till 9:30 on Wednesdays. Like I can't do the, when are we doing the next one? How about tonight or tomorrow? You pick. And I'm like, I can't, like, I need it to be scheduled. I need it to be in my calendar. Just the way that like the new transition job life has been. As long as that was the case, and I think I could see myself playing again at some point. I don't know what the season would be for the long answer.
Definitely, it's not a no, but it's maybe a maybe. Like in the future.
Yeah, it's a maybe.
Austin kind of said this in his interview. He says like at the moment on season 1, he probably wouldn't have played knowing that it was an org because like, you know, it happened and it was like new. Mm-hmm. Do you think that it was one of the, would you say it's one of the better things that happened to you playing season 1, and that how like stemming from that, all the friendships that you got meeting Austin, and then like, do you think that's where it all started? Like you deciding to play season 1 and just like in the midst of like this uncertainty with like COVID and stuff like that, looking back for you, like your journey?
Oh yeah. If I don't start with a season 1 type season, like I said, I don't think I ever find orgs. Like I don't think there would have been a time like 2 months later where I would have just been like, let me see what the online community is doing right now. And I think even though it was like a unique season, it needed to be that like level of, we're not sure what we're doing. Like, we're just going to figure this out. Like, not as intense for me to be in it, I guess. So yeah, I would agree with that.
One of my questions that I have for you, would you ever consider applying for the real show, and how do you think you would do in real life?
Oh, I would love to be on the real show. I'd like to go to a casting call. I feel like I'm like really awkward on videos. Mm-hmm. And so I don't know if I feel comfortable just like sending in a video and like talking about myself. But I feel like if I could meet them, maybe I would have a better chance. And I don't know how I would do. Like, I hope I would do well. To be honest, I feel like usually if there's like a season question where it's like, who would do well in Real Survivor? Like, I usually get answered. But like, I don't know. It's probably so different than the online platform of like, you can turn it off and you can like mentally recharge. Whereas like on the show, you're always with those people. I'd like to say I would do well. I would hope to win. I would do everything I could to do the best that I could, but it's really hard to say. I'd like to think I would at least make the merge.
I think this was a question on season 10, like who should go on the show, and the most popular answer, the answer actually was McKenna. So
oh yeah, I forgot about that.
me and Nick ended up tying for that, and then we had to go to like sudden death. But I
Mhm.
mean, I think it's safe to say that a lot of people think that you should go on the real show and like send an audition. So I think it would be great to see you on the screen and be like, oh, rooting for McKenna,
Yeah,
starting from season one of the org community and doing the real thing. I think that would be awesome.
yeah, I would love that. And like, I don't know what my approach would be exactly. I think I would try to go in like I don't think I would go in being like a gung ho hard player from the start. Like I think I'd be a little bit just like chilling for the first at least third of the game. And so hopefully that would get me through. As long as I'm not like the weakest or the most annoying, I'd like to think I would do well.
If you were able to be casted for some reason and the season ended up being an all-star season or like a fans versus favorites, who would you be most excited to see and play with, or who would you be like, oh my god, I can't believe this person is here, I did not want to play with them?
Oh my gosh. Well, I would love to play with Davey. Anyone who knows my favorite survivors knows that I love Davey from Survivor David versus Goliath. I think he was so smart and he was just so fun. And I feel like he's someone that would be like my best friend. Like, I feel like we would just like be like, I can't believe we're sitting out on an island together and just like joke around. Um, and like have fun, not take it too seriously, but also like really play the game. So I'd love to play with Davey. Or a like dark horse that I really like is actually. Do you remember Michelle Schubert from Millennials versus Gen X?
Yes.
She and Jay were my two favorites that season. I loved Michelle Schubert, and she didn't get a ton of airtime, but I felt like she was so smart, and I just felt like she was someone that I could relate to a lot, and I felt like I could have been really good friends with.
Mm-hmm.
And I felt like we could have played really well together. So if it was like a second chance or something, like I'd love to see her there, so that we could play together. Someone that I wouldn't want to play with, that's hard.
It could be also because you're too starstruck that you wouldn't vote them out. I guess you can look
That's
at it.
probably a lot of them. Who would I not want to play with? There's not too many people that I like really don't like.
I mean, it could be like, oh my god, they're gonna win.
Oh my god, they're gonna win. Trying to think. That'd be like, I mean, that'd just be like the typical like Parvati. Like, I'd love to play with her for the experience, but I'd also be like, there's no point in me being here. Like, she's got it. Like, because I'm not gonna want to vote her out. And same with like what you mentioned about Suri. Like, I feel like I would just want to be like Suri's daughter the whole time, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I would just be like, I just want you to take me under your wing, and like Suri is someone that I would feel comfortable. Like, just I'm here to help you win. Like, if I'm on a returner season or something, and like if I don't have a really good shot at winning, I'm just trying to help her win.
You have played 78 days since in Corey's org. What do you think about that?
It
78
feels like
days.
more. I feel like season 6 itself felt like 78 days.
Well, this is what I have in the stats, so unless Gabe is wrong.
Oh no, I believe you. I'm just saying. I'm sure it's because of like the pregame and all that. It just like felt so long. I'm kind of surprised it's that low, actually. Yeah, that's cool. Maybe I'll make it to 100 if I play again. Hopefully.
Yeah, I think that would be awesome to see you come back. I know you have your reservations, but I definitely would love to see someone like who's played. No, I guess they say that season 1 through season 6 was old school, and then season 7 is kind of like new school and on.
Mm-hmm.
But I definitely would love to see some people like, because I feel like to me in the org community, at least with Corey's, you kind of are like, I don't know, I guess like an Amber when she came back for when it was at war, like we hadn't seen her since All Stars. So to me, it was kind of like for you to come back, it would be like, oh my god, it's McKenna, Anything you want to say before we leave? You can talk about JT if you want. I know what is it that you love about him?
I think like he has multiple times in a season where people literally say like I just want to help JT win. Like, these people have a chance at a million. I don't know how you can have better social game than having other people competing against you for $1 million and just saying, I just want to see this person win. In the quarantine questionnaire, they did one with Brendan from Token Sheens, and they said, what is your favorite memory? And he said, voting for JT to win. Like, that was his favorite memory. And I just think that he was one of the greatest social players ever. And I also think that he is more strategic than people remember. Like, I think people just remember Heroes versus Villains and Game Changers and the moves that he made there. And they also think that Steven was the mastermind. But, like, I've watched Token Sheens probably 18 times. And he is a lot more strategic than people remember him for. And I think it's just the archetype of him being that, like, Southern boy and Steven being his archetype where people are just like, oh, Steven was the mastermind. But there are multiple times during the season that I can pinpoint where he corrects Steven on something, or he, like, tells him he's reading something wrong, or, like, he makes the better play. And so I think that he, like, I totally see why he had the first perfect game and why he's amazing.
Well, McKenna, you have been amazing throughout your games that I followed. I've never had the opportunity to play with you.
Hopefully sometime.
Yes, hopefully one time, whether it's Survivor or Big Brother. I think you're an amazing woman, and I definitely think that you've had the opportunity to shine, not just in Corey's Orc, even though you haven't won. You've definitely shown that outside of Corey's Orc, you are a queen. And right now, I'm very excited for you for the other orgs that you probably play in the future. And now with your hosting in Survivor Fan Jury Games, shout out to them. I'm excited to see where it goes. And right now, rooting for you and everybody else on the cast for the amazing race that's going on right now. I think you guys are doing awesome, and I'm really excited for that. And on that note, we'll say goodbye. Is there anything you want to say before we leave?
I guess just thank you, Ed. Like, this was really cool, and I don't get the opportunity to, like, reflect, I guess, on orgs for extensive periods of time. So even though it was a little, like, I might not have been super prepared because I hadn't thought about it too much, but it was a cool experience. So thank you for having me, and it's awesome that you're doing this.
Thank you. Also, I just wanted to kind of say it out there that this is more so to celebrate the people that come into here, whether they've won, whether they've not won, whether they have, like, wins. Anybody is free to come here and share their story and just reflect on their journey, like McKenna says, and just have a good time. I know that, like McKenna says, like, sometimes we're very tired from, like, work and our life, and then we just go home and, turn on our computers and play these games that we love, like Survivor, Big Brother. So I think it's mostly that to reflect our games and our journeys as fans of the shows like Big Brother and Survivor. So I just want to say thank you for being here, for doing this. I know you're very busy and your schedule, but I really was very excited to have you here and talk about your journey, not just with Corey's org, but also with Big Brother, the orgs, and also the friendships that you've made, and overall this whole year, how it's been for you. So thank you so much, McKenna, for being here. And we'll see you in the amazing race along with yourself with the Teen Taco besties. I probably said it wrong. Sorry.
It's okay.
But you know what I mean.
Yes.
And on that note, I will leave you with this because I kind of do it all the time, but I don't know if you like Survivor music, but I'll play it anyways.
Oh, yeah. I love it.
So thank you so much, everybody, for watching. I know it wasn't 3 hours long, but maybe we'll have her again, and then it'll be like 3 hours, like Austin.
Sorry, I didn't get that long.
No. It's well, we can figure out another time to talk about something else. But
okay.
On that note, the life has spoken, and thank you so much, McKenna, for being here. Thank you so much, guys, for watching. I'll be back for another interview with someone else, maybe next week. Who knows? But thank you so much for watching. Have a great night. Bye.